and use screenshots instead. I'll go ahead. Thanks everybody for turning up to this. Yeah, I gave a training session a few weeks ago on Wikipedia, and this session is an introduction to, well, kind of a deeper dive into two of the sister projects, Commons and Wikidata. And you'll know that Wikimedia's mission is to share a summary of human knowledge with everyone in the world for free. And that doesn't just mean an encyclopedia. Not all knowledge is in the form of linear narrative. There's other kinds of knowledge. There's figurative knowledge. There's kind of abstract relations between things. So giving people summary free knowledge just doesn't mean giving them an encyclopedia. It's like giving them the full library and the full bunch of different kinds of resources. So Wikimedia Commons and Wikidata kind of back up Wikipedia and provide services to it and provide services to other sites. I'm going to try and persuade you that they're immensely important in their own right to delve into as free knowledge projects. And since I work in universities and you work in university, the opportunities of the open education agenda and the open access agenda give us opportunities to use these platforms to reach a really wide audience. And so I want to talk about that, like sharing research outputs. So the first bit will be Commons. I just want to contrast the Wikipedia representation of topics against Commons. So I'm on the Wikipedia article about, I need to move this because I hide that, right. I'll move it up there. This is a Wikipedia article about a microorganism. And so there's some details there and there's some links and it's illustrated with an image, a Microsoft slide, sorry. Yes, some taxonomic information. At the foot of the page, there's this link to what Commons has about the same thing. So Commons is the digital media archive. So this is scans, diagrams, could be video clips, could be audio clips. Please open. But it's not just like an image gallery. It's sort of images and digital media with contextual information and supplementary information. Are we gonna see this?
Is it just your laptop struggling, Martin?
It might be because a lot is happening. Oh, I'm going to kill some tabs just to free up my. How do I move this thing at the top?
Yeah,
I can drag that down.
I find it easy sometimes just to
Okay, I'm gonna. These are quite intensive tabs, so they may be causing a problem. And now we're getting some results from Commons. Yeah.
Unless you want me to share that.
Something's happening.
So basically, I'll talk through and hope it appears behind me while I talk. That Wikipedia is the narrative guide through. It's mainly text illustrated with the occasional image. And Wikipedia is not to be an image gallery. It's a style guide that. It's a guideline point that you're not supposed to fill it with lots of images, but we do get lots of images related to a scientific topic or a cultural topic, only a tiny proportion of which actually appear in the Wikipedia article. I will use screenshots. So the commons category for this microorganism has a lot of the same information, has the same external links and the same kind of reference links to scientific databases, has the same taxonomic information about this parasite, but just loads more images, or orders of magnitude more images you get within Wikipedia. And these will be drawn from open access research or from archives and illustrating different aspects of the topic. Got a cultural example. The Baburname is a 16th century book. And there's an article about it on Wikipedia, which has like a dozen images. It's an illustrated manuscript, so the images are quite important. Again, you can click through to what Commons has. And it's lots more images relating to this book. So the British Library has a copy, and the British Museum has a copy, and the Walters Art Museum has a copy. And they've all digitized some of it. I don't know if you can see this at the top. So you can see images from this manuscript, from the British Library's copy, from the Victoria and Albert Museum's copy. We've got some contextual information at the top. We've got kind of where this is from, what language it's in, library reference, like authority file links. And a final example. Franz Schubert. So this is the biography of Franz Schubert. Can I move this to a different orientation or hide this? Do people know how to? Yeah. It's complicated by its being a bit hide floating meeting controls. Right. Phew. This is the biography of Schubert. So it will tell you why he's important and some significant things he did, but you won't be able to listen to complete pieces of music, or you won't be able to look through his manuscripts or see printed copies of his music. But again, Commons has that. So I won't try this now, but it'll show me art depicting Schubert, audio recordings of Schubert pieces if they're public domain, music manuscripts, printed music, and you can go through and then select works by Schubert, then sheet music of works by Schubert, then PDFs of sheet music of works by Schubert, and we go into first. No, that does my head in. It's maybe a technological solution. My brain can't handle what's on your screen the same as what's on my screen. So press through. So the point I'm making is, if you're a researcher, if you're kind of actively involved in these topics, the scientific topics or the cultural topics or studying music or whatever, the Wikipedia article is probably not much help. It's probably stuff you already know. But what's on Commons is probably actually useful in kind of primary research and kind of extending your knowledge of the topic. Yeah, there's the category of Schubert. So you can dig into compositions by, or look at autographs by, or art of. And again, we've got some, we've got an info box with basic information about this person. So Commons has 85 million plus files. A frequently asked question is, which of these can I use in my own stuff? Which of these can I take and put in a publication? Can I put in my website, or even use in a book and so on? And all of them are copyright cleared, all have a free license that allows reuse by anyone for any purpose. You've just got to observe the terms of the license, which will be often you've got to attribute where this came from, and attribute in the manner they might specify. You've got to make a link to their website. And sometimes if you make a derivative version, you've got to share that under the same terms that you got it. But they're all, you don't have to ask permission to use any of this stuff. Commons acts as the local file server for Wikipedia. So files, you just put the file name into Wikipedia of a file on Commons, and it appears and it's linked, and you get the thumbnail. And a lot of other sites do that as well. Some VLEs do that. They treat Commons to this file server, and you can get wiki software and set it up yourself and kind of point it at Commons to be the file server. And yeah, it's not just an image gallery, there's extensive stuff that each file can have about how this is made. You can choose a license and so on. And the main navigation, there's a pretty good search, but really where you find things is through categories, and there's a category tree, and it's basically mad because there's no standard vocabulary to describe 85 million things. So we'll look into that. It's people continue categorizing, creating new categories. There's no kind of rational system to it. So it's a bit frustrating. Folksonomic, you could call it. It comes bottom up, or just frustrating and mad is another way to put it. But we're gradually introducing linked data and gradually treating the whole thing as a database, so to which you could ask, what are public domain files that have come from a particular kind of source, a particular kind of thing. So eventually you'll be able to kind of put that into the database query. At the moment, there's these different systems are running in parallel. So when I put in a file to Commons, I've kind of got to put the category tabs to explain what's in it, and also put data in as well. It kind of duplicates work, but in the long term, it'll be kind of more rational. The main attraction of Commons that's so significant that it potentially eclipses the other good things about it is the reach, because it's illustrating Wikipedia. Here's Pete Map, a figure that created here in Leeds, a map of the world's peace in English Wikipedia with a caption, but here it is in Chinese Wikipedia, the Chinese caption, and here it is, I think this is Belarusian, and this is Azerbaijani Wikipedia. So these different sites are using the same source for their images, and people will notice, oh, this has a really good map in the English version, why not ours, and copy into theirs. There's also a Welsh version, so one kind of processing people are doing is taking an image and then replacing the captions, the labels and the diagram with their own language, with their kind of Arabic rather than Roman letters. So that's, it's like not an archive, it's a remix platform. And people are continually making new versions. They're making cropped versions or collages or adapting into other languages. So I want to talk about a few, I think, lesser known things that people are actively doing with this content that adds value to it. This is a map, an animated GIF of supernovas with the point in the night sky where the supernova appeared and the year of their discovery. And if I click this, it'll show me the context. So this is generated from a public database. There's just a kind of a text file that can be achieved on the public web. Oh, much faster. Okay. Thanks. Thanks everyone for your patience. Thanks for your patience out there on Zoom. So I showed you the image. Now I can show you the key and the source code. This is the Python source code that generates that visualization. And at the top, I think the data table is kind of too big, but it's on another server. But that doesn't matter. You can point to another server. So if more supernovas happen and that data set's updated, you can run this again. I'm going to minimize what I've got here and some reminders. And I was showing other things that you can do to add. So it's not just like Flickr or an image-based thing. There's more functions you can have. And I mentioned maps. So what we have here is a poverty map of London. This is from the Wellcome collection. And things with maps that their projections don't all fit together. You often have to stretch and shear and twist a map so it fits onto another. Just keep the background quiet. Keep the background quiet. That's you in the background.
I'm
Right.
messaging.
Okay. Okay. That's confusing. So this is a map that's uploaded on Commons, and there's a link to a Wiki Warper. It's not gone over to the browser. Okay, that's confused. So it's now showing. So I've clicked the link and it's gone there.
But it's not showing that on the thing. That's just the share option, I think.
I feel less ashamed of my activate Windows nagging thing than I see Nick one has on as well.
Share.
Great, that's what we wanted to see.
Oh, right. Is it? Oh, is that working?
Well, it wasn't until you touched it, Nick.
Yeah, well, sorry.
Rachel, you're famous now. Famous. Yeah. Your screen is ideal. Just the screen.
That's what I was doing. I think.
Yeah. So now we want to hide Zoom. Yeah, and then hide this at the top.
Like this. Are we all right now?
Yeah, hide photo meeting controls. Yeah.
Right.
Thanks. So this, because it's a map, has a link to the Wikimaps Warper. And so this takes your old historical map, superimposes it on OpenStreetMap, which is a modern thing, and we can zoom in this. And I know the volunteer who did the warping is different from the volunteer who uploaded this. So somebody had a big collection of images and just wanted to get them online and accessible to people. Someone else had a free evening and wanted to do some warping and lined this up. And we now have an opacity fader here. So we crossfade between the detailed poverty map of central London and modern day. So that's another kind of value people add. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot of map, professional kind of map curators who are doing this with map collections, and this. What's distinctive about this, it's open for anyone. It's the division of labour, that someone who wants to, as a volunteer, do some map warping, interested in a particular topic, poverty in London, does some work for that, and that improves this thing. It's been uploaded by a different institution who didn't have the capacity to do that. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we have to use on Wikimedia what's open and freely available. So it's great there's OpenStreetMap, which is a crowdsourced map that's kind of be used as the base map for lots of things. We've been through this. Image restoration. So there are people who will fire up Photoshop or GIMP or similar software and restore an image so it can be, do the color correction, contrast correction, and sometimes this makes discoveries. So I just really like this example. This is an image, the original is on the left from the Library of Congress, and it was captioned aftermath of the Battle of Wounded Knee, debris in the foreground. And it was uploaded along with a lot of other stuff. And Durova, as a Wikimedian, does a lot of this kind of work, contrast corrected it, kind of enhanced the visibility, got rid of the color tint. And when you look at the contrast enhanced versions, there are feet sticking out of it. So this was recognized as aftermath of the Battle of Wounded Knee, 4 corpses of Sioux in foreground. And so this was fed back to the library. This changed the description in the library of this photograph, and it's realized it's much more significant, and they started using this photograph in the touring exhibition. So that kind of improvement. Another thing that we're doing is transcription. So many interesting images are of pages of text, and maybe old printed text. And so, this is an old book about astrolabes, about these calculating instruments. It's kind of a user guide. And there's a scan that existed. So I think Google or somebody had scanned the pages of the book and shared those as image, and it's out of copyright. If you feed this into optical character recognition, in other words, if you ask a computer what text is on this page, even the best OCR will have all sorts of problems. There's blotches, there's letters being misrecognized, there's all different typefaces here, so it gets very confused, and you can't get good electronic text. So what we do in transcription is get human volunteers to fix this text. So we managed to make an electronic version of this book. And again, if you go to this PDF file of the scanned version of the book, it'll link to a transcribed, verified, this is what electronic text is in that book. So there's ways people can add value. Also, there are people who want to spend an evening categorizing files and rationalizing the categories. At points you get something for like DNA, you'll get molecular models of DNA, you'll get 3D animations of DNA, you'll get some DNA under a microscope or in a test tube, you'll get pictures of researchers who are associated with DNA. And so part of our job on Commons is to work through that and properly subcategorize it, try and rationalize it. But you get very specific things. So when you have 84 million files, there are really specific categories that you don't get in other classification systems like dragon-shaped door handles or physical models of fullerenes. These are all created by one user. These are all created by me in the course of different uploading and different attempts to rationalize what I find there. But it's evolving. So the person who uploads the image will be different from the person who kind of translates the description or the caption into another language, will be a different person from the person who refines the image, does the contrast correction, will be different from the volunteer who classifies it and adds the category tags to make this findable. But adding useful category tags is a thing I highly recommend for the visibility of what you upload. But finding out how to do that, there's no substitute for just looking at a lot of categories and just searching through Commons an awful lot. It's not like there's a rational basis that you can get to understand. So about uploading, there's different ways to upload. There's an upload file button. A useful feature of that is you can select 50 files at one time, and if they're 50 similar files, you can copy data from the first file to the rest, because you're putting in categories, you're putting in a description, a meaningful title, and so on. So batches of a few dozen can be done quite quickly if they're very similar files. And this is the process in which you choose a free license. You can choose public domain, no restrictions, attribution only, I demand to be attributed for any use of this, or attribution share alike, or so on. If you want to upload thousands of images, there are various options. I think the nicest is this Java program you download, and you have all your data about your images in a spreadsheet, and you have a directory with your images, and it kind of works through those and churns through and does your upload for you. And if you think, well, I don't want to get engaged with Commons, I'm already sharing images on archive.org or flickr.com. Well, there are bits of software that can grab media files from archive.org or from Flickr. They will check that the license is appropriate. So there's kind of a Flickr bot, but it will check that you have set your image on Flickr to be open and copyable. So even just selecting a default license for your Flickr account, which is a free license, which is Wikimedia compatible, that would be good. Even if you don't ever go to Wikimedia Commons or don't ever upload, you'd be helping the community by setting a Flickr account like that. That's been my quick tour. Any questions at this point about Commons? Yeah, I did want to bring in Educalizing, but I think it's a collection of open material, not necessarily a collection of educational objects. It's things that are ready to be put in the narrative and contextualized so they become educational. So the requirement is that there's got to be some kind of educational potential. It's not like, I mean, there are bigger image collections like Instagram and Facebook and so on, but Commons doesn't want your selfies, your pictures of your food, your party pics. There's got to be some, but a very broad educational.
You can upload that type of stuff.
You can, but stuff can be deleted for being out of scope. But the scope is pretty broad. So yeah, if you say I'm a Wikimedia user and I'm uploading a selfie to put on my user page, that'd be okay. If you had loads of stuff for yourself, yeah. So there's pictures from like Wikimedia related events, pictures of a public figure, great. But if you were not a notable public figure or not really active in the Wikimedia community and you wanted loads of images for yourself, that would be deleted.
And for instance, I like taking pictures and I don't share that much of food I cook. So if I cook the Spanish omelette and it's a good picture of the Spanish omelette,
yeah, you can. There is, I mean, the project we're not discussing today is Wikibooks, which is tutorials and how-tos, which Wikimedia doesn't have. Part of that project is recipes. We want the freely reusable recipes of cuisine all over the world, and we want that illustrated. So yeah, if you've got, you think the canonical photo of Spanish omelette that illustrates a Spanish omelette made in a particular way that you can explain, that's within, yes, it's not as much as Instagram.
Media commons, why not, you know?
Yeah.
An omelette. I mean,
but you couldn't use it like some people use Instagram of putting random like your every meal.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can educate people about that.
Canonical, by the way, that's very
the canonical. That's all the best example. Yeah. Can people at home hear the question? Is somebody, Nick, are you monitoring the chat?
Sorry. I'm just trying to get into.
Which I may want to reiterate.
If I refer to an object in Commons, does the person who put that object there, can they still remove it and therefore break a link that I've created in an article or something else? Good question. So if you link to a file in Commons, can that be deleted by the uploader? And the answer is only under very specific circumstances. If there's an identifiable person and it's a living person and the person withdraws their personality rights, which they have, they can say, I don't want you to host any pictures of me, and that can be taken down. But yeah, there are cases where people share images, they get kind of criticized, whatever. The uploader think, well, I don't want to share them now. And then it's like, well, you've irrevocably licensed them freely and given people permission to reuse them. So stuff can be deleted by being out of scope, by being outside the law, but that's really difficult to do. And so educational scope can include lots of things. Things can be superseded, like we've got a much better quality image of this exact same thing. Somebody has a photo of a painting, but someone's got a high quality scan of the painting. Oh, we'll use the high quality one and kind of redirect and delete the original file. But it is irrevocable. So yeah, if it bears on your personal self or your personal life, that's a reason to be very cautious about what you upload. I'll move on to Wikidata because that's, sorry, okay, no, we've got to hear all questions, right.
Do you know that it's a licensing rule for peer-reviewed articles, especially scientific articles? If I want to upload an image that I think explains a scientific process really well on Wikipedia, but it's not on Commons, but I want to upload it to Commons, would I be able to do that?
The question is about, can you upload images from peer-reviewed research to Commons? So this is why the open access agenda is opening up lots of opportunities. So it's got to be at least as permissive as CC by share alike. So if there's a non-commercial clause, you can't. If there's a no derivatives clause, you can't. And Creative Commons come in like 7 different flavors with these different clauses. It's only the top 3 most liberal, most permissive licenses that are compatible with Commons, basically that allow anyone for any purpose. But increasingly, a lot of peer-reviewed research is required to be CC BY or CC BY SA. And funders are insisting that outputs are CC by attribution only. So people can reuse this, they only have to attribute, say, whose work this is, where it's come from. So just a few years ago, I'd say it's very unlikely you could use a diagram from peer-reviewed paper, but if it's really recent, I think you can. But yeah, it's looking at the particular license details of that journal or
non-commercial is okay.
Oh, if it's non-commercial, that's not okay. That doesn't count as free cultural works. Creative Commons doesn't count non-commercial. And I used to think non-commercial was a good idea, but then thinking it through, you might want to use something on social media. Well, if you did it, you're adding to the value of the Twitter corporation, and that's commercial. If you might use it in education, well, people pay thousands of pounds for a degree that could be argued to be commercial use. You might use it in research. Well, research is Elsevier and big companies, so you're helping a commercial company. A lawyer could argue that any use you want to use of it is commercial and rule it out. So it's actually the share alike. If you get this and you do something with it, share your derivative version freely with other people. And there was a question at the back. I didn't want to leave. So yeah, it's
Wikipedia, when you write somebody else come along and say, oh, that's rubbish. I'm going to change it.
So as Wikipedia can be changed, yeah, you can put in a paragraph of text in Wikipedia and think it's an improvement, and somebody will say, no, that's better the way it was, and revert it. It's still stored, and the idea is you have a discussion with that person and other people into the topic about which is better, and you each say, how is this topic covered in other sources? How is it covered in a textbook? So it's not a vote. It's a discussion based on source. And the same with images, that somebody might upload, I fixed this image, and somebody might say, well, the imperfections in the original image were important. They're important for researchers to look at. So have yours as a separate version and keep, so all changes to images are stored in the same way that the wiki stores all changes to the document.
That's covered in more detail in the previous session, which is recorded.
Right.
So, Martin,
I didn't know about this previous
just to clarify, so if I find a picture which is by attribution, non-commercial, and it allows derivatives, and I put it in Wikimedia Commons, is there a way to police? Is there a way to
breaking the terms of that license that you got the image with? It'll ask you in the process, it'll ask you what is the license that the publisher of this image is attached. And if you select non-commercial, it'll say, we can't accept this. So you've got to persuade, yeah, sometimes I've had to do this, persuade the owner of the image to change the license to make it Wikimedia compatible. But the free means usable by anyone for any purpose. Just like a road is infrastructure that you can use to go and visit a friend, to go and go to work, go to deliver goods. It doesn't care how you're using it. And we take that attitude to knowledge, that if people find a commercial use for it, that opportunity to use a commercial should be available to everyone equally. That's not restricted to a particular person who has that license. But I'd better move on. Thanks, sorry about the delay. I've been showing you these info boxes, and you've seen info boxes on Wikipedia. They're kind of the key facts boxes at the top of an article, and they're all over Commons. And what you might not see is that they're multilingual. So this was the information box about the parasite I showed you right at the start. If I change my interface language to German, I get all of these labels, all these properties of this organism in German. So it's not a block of text that's been included. It's actually a clever kind of abstract statements that are with labels that are being replaced by the different languages, and people change to Arabic or Hebrew, whatever, and they'll be substituted. Here's the Wikimedia Commons record for a painting, and there's details about it, when it was made, what it's painted on. If I change my interface language to Persian, I get mostly the same thing. Some things haven't been translated. See, and this isn't Google Translate, this isn't machine translated. This relies on human speakers of the relevant language putting in, this is what it's called in my language. This is what oil paintings are called. This is what a canvas is called. This is what, birth year or birth date. So this is cleverly multilingual, and this is a service that not just on Commons or on Wikipedia. This is a service available to any website from Wikidata, and Wikidata is an example of a knowledge graph, and a knowledge graph is a hard thing to explain. But I'm going to illustrate this with things called sandwich. I'm interested in things that are called sandwich, and here are some of them. Sandwich, as in the thing in bread that you eat, was named after John Montagu. He was called Sandwich because that was his noble title. He's the Earl of Sandwich because his family were connected to Sandwich, which is a place in Kent. And there's other sandwiches. So Wikidata knows these relations between things. It distinguishes between things with the same name. It knows that Sandwich, the place in Kent, is not the Sandwich, the islands in the Pacific, is not the thing you eat. Even John Montagu, 4th Earl of Sandwich, that names two things. That's a human being who existed historically. It's also a painting, which is the portrait, which is also called John Montagu, 4th Earl of Sandwich. So this is an example, this is a tiny chunk I've extracted from Wikidata's knowledge graph, which has about 100 million things. It's sandwiches, places in the Pacific, and as you see, very simple relations between them. Each of these relations is just like something pointing to something else. But when you have 100 million objects represented and you've got billions of facts about them, then you're kind of representing knowledge about the world in an abstract way that you can use to make visualizations, use to make bits of text. So this is a potentially subversive thing. A service offered to anyone on the web. It's completely free and unrestricted to get key facts about things. So I won't go into the mechanisms of triples, but these properties can be links between things, or they can be values, like linking something to a point on the Earth's surface. They can be measurements, they can be identifiers, they can be dates or date ranges. And so this enables a whole load of a way of accessing knowledge, which is completely different from what you'd get with Wikipedia. And I just like the self-portraits of women example, because you think of how difficult it would be to get that normally just from the existing web. There's hundreds and hundreds of galleries and museum websites that might have what you're looking for. And how would you search? Not all of the images would come up when you search for self-portraits of women. You'd basically have to find all of the artists in the index and all the ones that were women, and then look through for their portraits. With Wikidata, it has all of this implicitly. You can frame a question to it. If you know the relevant language, you can frame a question, what are self-portraits by women, and say, give me the results as an image gallery and get this back. So I've done this with joining up catalog data from museums about astrolabes, about these calculating devices, and finding which is the biggest and smallest astrolabes and when were they made. And we can cross over real and fictional and mythological worlds. So I've asked for things named after things invented by Shakespeare. So there's moons of Uranus that are named after, like Oberon, named after things from Shakespeare. There's kind of cliches that come from Shakespeare. So this isn't, I first thought this would be like something you upload data to. It's just like a store that you upload data sets. But it's more interesting. It's the secondary data that's from the findings of research rather than raw data of research. And it's kind of a model of the world and a model of fictional and mythological worlds as well. Can join together into a model. So each new fact you upload extends this graph, extends this kind of web of different relations between things. And there's various ways to look at this graph. So if you know the Sparkle language, which is kind of hyper geeky, it's a database query language, you can ask questions, but fortunately, there's a bunch of other tools that you can use. This is a bit geeky, but this is just to point out that everything's represented in a language independent way. So all of the items we're talking about have a number, like Ada Lovelace and Lord Byron. And all of the properties we're talking about, like date of birth, a parent, a child, author of, painting depicts, They have numbers as well. And then we attach labels in different languages. So we can recognize that something has multiple names. The person known as Lord Byron is also known as George Gordon Byron, and is also known as via a lot of other strings in other languages. So whereas Wikipedia, there's a different one for each language, Wikidata is one database worked on by people in 300 languages. And yeah, a few tools that allow you to, without knowing the query language. Scholia, this is a query from Scholia, which gives a view of kind of scientific research information on Wikidata. And this is a view of what it knows about COVID-19. And so pharmaceuticals that are known to interact with it, risk factors that are known to interact with it, things that it's confused with but different from. So COVID-19, the disease, is different from SARS-CoV-2, the virus, and so on. So you can explore this. Scholia also gives you kind of the top researchers in this field, or networks of collaboration between researchers, or significant institutions, significant journals of publication. For art, there's this tool called Krotos, explores 300,000 bits of art. So a piece of art that has a representation in Wikidata and a high resolution image in Wikimedia Commons appears in this. It's updated every month. And you can browse it by kind of type of artwork, what it depicts, what movement it represents, filter by date, or look at a map and see artwork that depicts places on the map, or that lives that place on the map. And this was made by a volunteer in a day, I think, at a hackathon. And this is how much Wikidata changed things. So if I proposed it, if this didn't exist, and I proposed this to you, especially when Wikidata was just getting going, you'd think this would cost millions and millions of investment to create this, to browse 300,000 artworks from thousands of different collections. That sounds like a huge thing, but Wikidata, making that data and Commons, making the digital images available, makes it possible for people to create these different interfaces, and whatever interfaces are going to exist in a generation for browsing art and culture will be able to draw on this. Yeah, so I've been working in a university for 25 years, and I've seen again and again stuff be created to support educational research that after a while is eventually lost. The person maintaining it retires, goes and lives in the woods, or the server's switched off because the security updates can't be applied to the server, or it's made in some format which doesn't last. It's made, there's educational content in Flash. And this is an example of a really important research database, the database of Scottish Witchcraft, that's an Access database. And Access isn't really a thing anymore. So we lose over the years so much work. And this is just an outstanding example. They've got student interns to add layers of information from this database into Wikidata. And then it joins up with other data that's already there. So Wikidata has latitudes and longitudes for parishes and settlements in Scotland. This database has the names of parishes where trials occurred. So you join that up, you get the point, latitude, and longitude, you can make a map. So they can do new things with this, not necessarily sharing the whole thing, sharing kind of a top level. And so I think there's a huge opportunity here for lots of stuff that we create, yeah, in educational research, all stuff we do in universities, could at least have links or identifiers, or like the top level, the tombstone level of information shared on Wikidata, and then it joins up with other existing data and you can do other things with it. So yeah, I'll quickly say how you put stuff in. I can show, if you like, that you can put an individual statement in, or you put a reference in for a statement through the site at wikidata.org. There's a way to put in thousands of statements at once. You make a kind of spreadsheet format, kind of tab delimited file format. The tricky bit is you've got to convert your names, whatever you're calling things in your database, to the identifiers. So I said Wikidata uses numeric identifiers. Luckily, there's ways to do that. So Google Sheets has tools. There's a Google Sheets Wikidata extension, which has these kind of tools in, which you look up. So say I've got cities and I've got kind of London, Paris, Lisbon, Addis Ababa in a spreadsheet, and I want the identifiers for that, and I want to say get their locations on the map. I can feed that into Google Sheets and then get that property back. And OpenRefine is kind of the good practice way to do this. OpenRefine is a tool you can use. I think it's downloadable, or there's an online version you just use entirely in the browser. But this does this lookup and conversion and looking up further information really elegantly and makes it nice. And so this is an animation of kind of chemical names. Somebody's got a database of chemicals, and with a few clicks, they connect it to Wikidata. Wikidata sees, oh, these are all names of chemical elements. I know about this, and so what other properties would you like? Would you like the atomic weights? Would you like the discoverer of these elements? And so on, you just add them in. Yeah, that was my quick intro to Wikidata. Your questions about Wikidata, please.
I was just posting a few examples that helped me to understand the methodology. As you can see in the chat, so Historypedia is a good example.
Yeah, great. So Historypedia is, there's one version which is a tool which just works with Wikipedia categories. So you go to historypedia.org, I think you go to timeline.historypedia.org and type in, say, battles of World War I, and straight away it comes up. There's a nice interactive timeline, it's color-coded, and there's an image, and there's the kind of the mobile version of Wikipedia article comes up. But that only works for the Wikipedia categories, of which there are tens of thousands. But yeah, you can customize it. There's a version called Historypedia.js, where you can put in, you describe exactly what you want. And I've used this for timeline of astrolabes, timeline of the works of Voltaire, timeline of manuscripts of the Quran. And you can specify where the links go. The links don't have to go to Wikidata or Wikipedia. They could go to an external database. If you've got a database of manuscripts or a database of chemical elements, you can use this as a front end. And it's a free, it's kind of a separate software library that's free to use for non-commercial purposes.
And I was just trying to make the point, I tried to explain it in the chat, because this was one of my main learning curves with Wikidata, was the Electrifying Women project. And so that illustrates it's only as good as the data that's in Wikidata. So in that instance, we were using the country of citizenship. And I've actually sort of helped with a query to generate all the women engineers without country of citizenship. So then it's part of an editor.
Yeah.
Get people actually adding that missing statement, which then means they're surfaced in the query that's then visualized on Historypedia. So it's quite a...
So yeah, Wikidata is pretty much always incomplete, but it gives you a lot of stuff, and it gives you a lot more than nothing. So every time I work with Wikidata, I kind of see what's there. It's like a good example there that you're focusing on a set of women, but it doesn't have for each of them the country of citizenship. You can turn it into a virtue, like you say, you can give people a task of filling in the country of citizenship. You can kind of top up the data, and then Wikidata is now maybe complete for that, but it's incomplete for something else, but it's better for something else. Someone else will make it complete from their perspective, for their purpose, and that will make it better. And then someone else takes it and adds something else to it, because we're all working the same platform, and it's not a particular type of data. It's not purely biographical or geographical or bibliographic. It's all those things. We're all kind of improving what each other have to work with. But yeah, you can't assume it's complete for anything. You have to kind of...
I think I've just identified something else that can happen with Wikidata, just because I posted it, if you look at the chat, you'll see, but I just posted a query for women engineers that aren't listed with a country of citizenship, and the first one on that list is actually about Lana Torres, which I think is a character from Star Trek.
Oh, this is a pitfall I warn people about, that, yeah, we represent fictional and mythological things as well as real things, and you've got to bear that in mind. So if you ask...
Well, just coincidentally, that's the first one, because I've just Googled it, and the Wikipedia entry says that it's the character in Star Trek. So.
If you ask for winners of the Nobel Prize in Economics, one of them you get is Jebediah Bartlett, who is the fictional president in the West Wing. And if you ask for countries that border Cameroon, one you get is Wakanda, because the comics say that Wakanda borders Cameroon. So there is a kind of an extra step you have to usually put in to filter out the fictional examples. But you might be interested in the fictional example. What fictional entities are there that have this property, that like in Africa? Or what fictional characters are said in the text of the Nobel Prize?
I'm not sure how well my audio is coming over, because I'm sorry to everybody online that's been coping with our problems here, but I'm just wondering, there's no reason for us to stop broadcast if people want to stay, and I don't know if there's any, you could show us Wikidata in a bit more detail, just because that's recorded then as well, and then we can work with you guys ongoing, but it's up to, you know, I'll watch if the numbers drop off and there's nobody here, then we'll stop, but we might as well record a little bit more about Wikidata.
Sure, yeah.
Just to show how data's input and stuff.
Yeah, I'll actually go to, well, I'll show Reasonator as well as Wikidata. So I think the best way to look at Wikidata kind of as a consumer is to go to something called Reasonator. And okay, it's not showing. I'm going to stop the presentation, and then does it show you? Okay, so I have my browser, right? So there's a tool called Reasonator, right? Reasonator found here. This will show everything that's.
Well, that's a pitfall. That you've just broadcast.
I've done this before as well.
Sorry.
I have no idea what that means.
Oh yeah, it's fine. I can do that anytime.
Okay.
I want
So-
to know what that means.
The high-tech environment which we work, the message can be broadcast to everyone. So yeah, this is the Wikidata site. This is an application that draws data from Wikidata. You give it a topic and it shows everything Wikidata knows, and in a bit more of a pretty way than Wikidata itself shows, but we'll visit that next. And again, there's a language selector. So I'm viewing this in English, but I could select and opt to have this all in Persian or Korean or whatever. And oh, it would be slow, isn't it? Okay. So this thing at the top is, it looks like a Wikipedia article. It's actually a biography generated with a template. So if you have like a template structure, like person was born in birthplace on birth date and became known as an occupation, if you have that kind of template and you paste in these facts from Wikidata, you can make a kind of robotically repetitive but serviceable kind of template article. And so this is being used. This is a kind of a great hope for generating massive articles about people, books, films in Wikipedias that don't have that yet. We just have to give it some templates and grammatical rules and some names of things. Got family relations here. Oh, he caught COVID. Over on the right, we've got lots of identifiers. So this is a key purpose of Wikidata, that that there are identifiers for a topic in library databases, museum catalogs, scholarly databases, and Wikidata relates all of those. It's kind of a hub relating all the different kind of ways to identify something. And so these are our properties. Again, they're just kind of, I was talking about triples. These are simple properties of things, but they can have qualifiers. So you can say Barack Obama won the Nobel Peace Prize, qualified by the point in time in which he won. You can say somebody was prime minister, but qualify that start date, end date. So this is not, this is drawing from different bits of Wikidata, any that are relevant to this topic of Barack Obama.
There's just a query, question come in from Martin Poulter. It's not clear, how do I run a query in Wikidata? So that, I suppose this is one way. This is basically a query in Wikidata, isn't it? But there's a Sparkle interface as well.
Yeah, I'll go to Wikidata itself now. Oops. And in the left sidebar, can I make this text bigger? There's this link called Query Service. Now, this is the bit that uses the Sparkle language. So this is not for the faint of geek. Luckily, there are these things called examples. So there's a lot of kind of pre-made queries. Just find something that's interesting. There's something about mares. Mares that are any kind of domesticated animal. So I'll select that. Now it pastes in the Sparkle code. I don't need to know what this Sparkle code does. And I press the big blue button and I run it. And it'll answer the question, what mares are domesticated animals and what are they mares of? And there's, if I click this button at the top, this icon, there it opens what's called a query explainer, which is an attempt to read this code and explain in English what this code is doing. What other language? I'll find another example.
Well, I'll just post my really simple query. As I say, it's not for the faint of geek. Even I, and I'm no code, would have managed to. You once you look at an example and you look at the codes, etc., you can hack them around that. So this is a very simple query for anybody affiliated with the University of Leeds that has a has an entry on Wikidata and or Wikipedia page.
Great.
So that's just in the chat. So if you hit that, you'll see the Sparkle query, then you can run that in the interface and it'll show you all the people in Wikidata. And then you can link to that and to the item on Wikidata itself for that person, which may or may not be lacking there.
I'm hoping Nick's voice comes across over the audio.
Yes, that's good.
So I've asked this for a map of hospitals. And so these are all the hospitals that Wikidata knows about. I can do so when I have the query explainer open, it's kind of explaining what this code on the right does, but I can edit this explanation. So I want a query that's like this, but instead of showing me hospitals, I want kind of research libraries, which might show us the research library. Okay.
I tend to look back at the P and Q codes. That's a lot easier to do.
Yeah. So I'm going to search for that. So in theory, I haven't had to look at the Sparkle code or know how it works. And I've managed to change this to take an existing example and make it, okay, a map of research libraries. And I want to point out, yeah, when I put in a value, I don't need to know what the codes are. So research library has some code, Q14380. I don't need to know that. I type in something and Wikidata will auto suggest here, like with sandwich. If I'm asking a query about sandwiches, it will say, do you mean sandwich, the thing you eat, sandwich the person, sandwich the island in the Pacific? Here, library, does it mean a library as in a building full of books and tables, or does it mean a software library as in a bit of code, or do I mean Library of Congress and so on? So I don't need to remember these Q numbers at all. The autocomplete system is really nice. And so, yeah, I've made something new there. I've made a map of research libraries. I can zoom in it. I can click on these red dots and it'll tell me which. Okay, if it's got a name in English, we can customize this. We can add kind of official websites and images of the library and its name in different languages and so on.
Maybe we could have a look at.
So I think we should go to Wikidata.
Yeah, maybe add a statement.
Yeah, let's award somebody the So I was on I was on Reasonator, and so I can go to Wikidata itself and do a search. I can search on Reasonator. Actually, this took a long time to load, it didn't it? So I'm going to ignore that. Okay, I'm going to go back to, what's a shorter... Nick, we could do as the power pack, the power label. I'm coming to this other Barack Obama, the father of the more famous one. So when you look at the Wikidata entry for an item, this is an identifiable thing. So it starts with the various names, this and descriptions this is known by, different languages. And then these are the statements. And each statement can have one or multiple references. So some of these are imported from Wikipedia, or more often they're imported from scholarly resources or from other places on the web. And there can be multiple values. So if sources disagree, often sources will disagree about the birth date of someone historical. You can put both birth dates in and say, according to this one source, it's this value, according to another source, it's this other value. And then people querying have the choice of how to use this. So all of these have add value. So if this person has worked as an architect, as a politician, as well as an economist, I can put that in. This is only on Nick's computer. This will not go live until I press the publish button. Just like with Wikipedia editing, you first edit on your own computer and you publish. So I'm going to cancel that, but that's how I'd add another value. What about another statement? What if there's an award this person has won? I'll show this and then I'll answer your question. At the bottom, there's add statement. So I know this person's won a Nobel Prize. I need a property for an award they've won. Award received. That's relevant property. And I'm going to say they got Nobel Prize for Physics. Whoops. And it suggests some Nobel Prizes. Okay, and that's one. Again, if let's give a Peace Prize. So I could publish that. I could qualify that with what year, the point in time. So if it's this year's Nobel Peace Prize, 2022, and I could put in a reference. So I could say the reference for this is, well, if somebody has won the Nobel Peace Prize, that'll be on the Nobel Prize site. So I'm going to put a reference URL, which is I'll put in the proper URL for that. So I've added a statement with this add statement button. I've identified the property. The statement has to be about the item that this page is about. Then the autocomplete helps me identify the value. So this could be another item. This could be a value. I might be talking about the diameter or height of something. So I put in the number in centimeters and we can qualify it. We can put in the time and conditions under which the statement is true. And we can put in one or multiple references. And then pressing publish will, which I won't do because we've vandalism, will save that. So that's the kind of incremental way to do it.
There are quicker ways, aren't there, getting data?
Yeah, if I had the whole, and sometimes I have the whole set of everybody who's got a particular scholarly award. So I'll do a bulk process and throw this all in at one time. Question at the back.
Is anybody verifying them? You say somebody, one person may have this date on the birthday and somebody else may have that date. Is there anybody that actually goes or any way of verifying them, or are we just always going to have rubbish information?
There'll always be, this is a question about data. This is a quick. Yeah. This is a question about data quality, given that anyone can edit, and this is open for anyone to edit. And it's similar to Wikipedia. In theory, anyone can edit Wikipedia. So in theory, it's just crashed and it's just become a load of spammy adverts for Rolex watches and it's become hoaxes. But actually that hasn't happened because people are reviewing each other's inputs. Each time you make an edit, that's recorded in the edits to this item or the Wikipedia article, and it goes in your user contribution record. And these things are all public. So each contributor can see what everyone else is contributing. So if someone's coming in and putting in clearly made up, awarding the Nobel Peace Prize to just anybody, their contribution record will show that. And so people notice and block that, warn that person, block them, and do those edits.
Some of them have a user and you can't track them.
But
So-
it can be reverted. This is a really interesting area because I've talked to Martin a lot about this and the fact that there's a lot of evidence in the Martin that Wikipedia is actually more accurate than something like that's actually telling.
Yeah, Wikipedia.
It shouldn't
Yes,
work, but it does.
yes.
And this is the thing that it doesn't compute, but the community does make it work, and it is actually more accurate than you might expect.
Yeah,
So
for the
that's
chat,
it, you might
yeah,
not believe that, just not-
I'm just thinking of my own subject area.
Well,
If I look at something on
yeah.
Wikipedia, there is an awful lot of
Well,
information.
And this is one of the things that we try to do, is to encourage people like yourself to edit that, because we do need experts to do it. Some papers are better than others.
Yeah.
Which
There's-
is partly why I'm here, because
Yeah.
I would like to get to know about
Yeah.
doing more of that.
There's continuous informal and occasionally formal review. So if people are looking at what other changes, so I'm interested in particular areas in psychology and philosophy and some areas of art. So I monitor those areas of Wikipedia, Wikidata, and I can get a report on what's changed recently. So and that'll tell me, oh, somebody's come through and deleted chunks from these articles, or they've pasted links to their website into these articles. And so I can revert that, review that, and there's tens of thousands of us monitoring each other like that. So some vandalism or hoaxes will ever creep in, and that's why I wouldn't use Wikidata for anything really important without checking. But it's far better than theory suggests. The quality, and we can mark things. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if you want to do a quick check on a subject, you will
Yeah.
get an awful lot of valuable information as well. And then if you want to take it further, you then go and research.
Exactly, that's the point. It's meant to be a starting point for finding information. It's not meant to be an end point, and it's meant to point you to the reliable resources, not to be a reliable resource itself.
I understand the point as well, because someone I know personally has been put on Wikipedia and she's asked people to deliberately go on and put incorrect information about her because they had problems with people going into their house and
Yikes.
and things like that. So
Right.
she's actually requesting.
Yeah, private information, even about people in the public eye, shouldn't be shared. There's a whole kind of ethical thing, and there's an ethical, what we call an ethical ambition of Wikipedia, not to harm people's careers or harm people's lives. And so there's particular restrictions on articles about living people and particular high standards of sourcing. I also want to mention formal review, that images on Commons, articles on Wikipedia can be badged as being of high quality. So someone has reviewed them carefully and said that they reflect published research in this area fairly and comprehensively, and then there's a badge given to that version article at that point. And then editing an article, getting changes made to an article with that badge is more difficult. Those articles are monitored more. They're showcased, but they're monitored more people. So a really valuable thing an expert can do is come and review an article, and not even like writing the article written by the people, but say, this is what this is like compared to a summary of kind of the state of actual knowledge that's in textbooks and review papers. And is it comprehensive? Is it fairly written? Is it representing controversy well? Is it creating controversy where there's none? Is it representing the academic consensus? And then that review can help something get that badge.
Martin and I, we have a paper that sort of summarises all this. So I'll send that to you. If you watch the previous There was just another question from Ollie Dorcas asking in general, how quickly do things get updated? For example, if a famous person dies or someone gets married, etc., or water, how quickly does it get? I guess it depends on the community.
Yeah, this is a problem Wikidata solves. So the question is, how quickly do things get updated? So when we had the different language versions of Wikipedia, but not Wikidata as a hub joining them together, say that there'd been an election in the UK and a new MP represents my constituency in West Bristol. Now that'll be changed as soon as that's announced on the TV on English Wikipedia, because there's people watching the TV and editing Wikipedia and making a change as soon as it's announced. But will that change on Vietnamese Wikipedia or Korean Wikipedia? That might not be seen for years until somebody who's Vietnamese takes an interest in Bristol West. They might notice the MP is wrong and update it. By having those kind of key facts and figures and dates in Wikidata and having them imported from Wikidata into these other sites, these different language versions of Wikidata, into Commons and so on, you change it in one place and then it percolates out to Wikipedia and any other site that wants it. It's a service available to the whole web. So this database speeds these things up. The question is right, that it's whoever's interested in it. So on election night, there are people dedicated to staying up. When there's a Doctor Who episode, at the end of the Doctor Who, in the closing credits of every Doctor Who episode, they announce the title of the next Doctor Who episode. So there are people with Wikipedia open, ready to create the draft article for the next episode of Doctor Who, and they have seconds to do it, and they'll waste it. So
I want to put Real Madrid as a champion of the Champions League.
Okay, sports. Right, yes, because the sports results, there'll be people ready to, and then there's other actually really important things in culture and science and knowledge and history that don't get updated so much. So that's why I want more eyes of more people just get in the habit of spending a few minutes a week looking at Wikipedia in their area of interest and making a change, or having discussion if need be. And I'm going to come to your question. So the question, so if there's lots of people updating Wikipedia, yeah, like there's like somebody's famous has died, who makes the change? It is who gets there first, basically. And Wikipedia isn't very good at this because we can have an edit conflict. So if two people are working at the same time on improving the article, and one saves first, the other will get someone else's changes while you've been editing it. And they can kind of they can look at the different versions and compare them and kind of work their answer. But it really sucks, to be honest, if that happens. Wikidata is more flexible and different people can be putting in different statements at the same time, I think, but it's kind of old technology, this. It's not like Google Sheets where, yeah, loads of people would be working on the same Google Sheet at once, no problem. It's who gets there first. And there's a bit of kind of pride in, you know, I created the first entry about this episode of Doctor Who because I pressed return at the right point while the credits were rolling on the previous episode.
I'm just trying to excuse me.
So there are pop culture things, there are sport things, there are things. There are certain topics that, because of the interests of who the Wikimedians and Wikipedians are, will get updated thoroughly and quickly and so on. And then there's stuff that is no less important culturally and that is not getting enough attention, and not getting enough attention from experts or getting attention from people in the relevant part of the world, from the relevant background. So it's so important to diversify the contributors for Wikipedia from actually a group of kind of white North European, North American men with master's degrees to kind of all of humanity. To iron out these inequalities.
One quick question. I like to update the webpage of my city in Spain in English.
Right.
Because I see that the version in English and the version in Spanish is different.
Yeah.
And I think I've been doing it wrong, because what I should have done is go to Wikidata and use Wikidata properly, So that every time somebody in Spain does the updating of Wikidata, then it transfers to the page in English.
I don't know about the info box.
It doesn't necessarily, so the different,
info box on
yeah.
the site,
What you're doing, I highly recommend, that's the way we should work, that go first to Wikidata to update some important fact, like about the city, like the population, like who represents in Parliament, because that makes it available to 300 languages. And there are other languages kind of drawing data from, I've showed you the template where you can take the template.
But the fact that it's different in two languages, that means that the Spanish people who have been doing it in Spanish, and the people in England who have been doing it in English or America or wherever, they haven't been working through Wikidata.
No, so the English Wikipedia community, each language community is a separate community free to set its own standards and rules.
Yeah.
And the English Wikipedia community doesn't like Wikidata so much and doesn't want Wikidata directly feeding into articles. It wants everything reviewed by humans before it's put into an article. Contrast with Catalan Wikipedia, they've got a much smaller volunteer group of volunteer editors. So they love having that they can edit in Wikidata, harvest, generate articles, templates, lists from Wikidata, and have a big, full Wikipedia with loads of detail with not much human work. And Welsh Wikipedia in this country uses Wikidata a lot to generate articles. So it's hugely welcomed by smaller language communities. English Wikipedia, the biggest language community, has this kind of snobby attitude to it, like kind of academia had to Wikipedia. Nowadays, Wikipedians have the attitude, oh, well, anyone can edit, which is kind of an ironic criticism coming from Wikipedians. But yeah, they maybe putting charitably, they want more human review rather than the idea of software and bots creating articles. They're more scared of that. But yeah, we're dependent on translation between articles, and there's no master Wikipedia. The English one is biggest, but it's not kind of the master. Translation can go in any direction. You can see an article might be better in Spanish or better in Russian, so we can translate in any direction.
I know that we've still got several colleagues online, but I'm just, we did want to spend some time today as well working with Think Better, just wandered out, but with you, with you here. So we'll probably sort of stop the broadcast now, if that's all right. I mean, thanks to everybody who did join us online. I hope that was useful. Sorry for the sort of teething troubles we had earlier on. I'll try and edit some of those out before I put this on.
Thank you, everybody, for your patience, like you in the room and online. I hugely appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I knew it wouldn't go entirely smoothly. It'd be boring if it did, wouldn't it? So thank you very much. But I will stop the broadcast now. And but please do get in touch if you've got any questions or comments or want to know any more. And we hope to do, what I keep saying about this stuff. We're just trying to start a few fires really and get a bit of interest going. So please do get in touch if it's piqued your interest. And yeah, hopefully see you again soon. So I'll stop that now, and then perhaps we can have a cup of tea or whatever.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I'll share a dirty secret about quality, because it's been
You're still being recorded.
No, it's okay if it's online.